So just a brief overview what I'm going to talk about. First, I will show you the results of brief previous empirical research, and then I would like to talk about another research that was raised by this previous one. So this previous research took place in the school year 2014 and 15, and it consisted of 3 lessons, a pre-test and a post-test, so altogether 5 chemistry lessons. It was taken in 12 Hungarian schools with the participation of 15 chemistry teachers and 31 groups of 14, 15-year-old students. The sample and the groups were divided randomly into 16 control groups and 15 experimental groups. And all the groups did the same student experiments. The only difference was that the control groups were given step-by-step recipes, and while the experimental groups were asked to design at least one step in these experiments. Here you can see the details of the sample. There are no differences between the numbers of boys and girls, nor between the gender ratios. And just a short summary about the results. After the intervention, we divided the sample into 3 subgroups according to their achievement on the pre-test. And the students had in the test experiment designing tasks and other kinds of tasks, for example, about understanding, application, or factual knowledge. So on the experiment designing tasks, we detected significant positive change in both the control and experimental groups too, but the experimental groups had higher achievement. And on the other tasks, there was a surprise that the highest achievement group had poorer results on the post-test than on the pre-test. But in this subgroup, the experimental groups had higher achievement. So we can conclude that probably it is worth changing step-by-step in experiments into inquiries in which one or more steps are designed by students. And it can help to develop the scientific thinking or the student designing experiments. We wanted to build our research based on the results of the previous research. So you can see the key questions here and the research questions. Firstly, our plan is to carry out longitudinal research over 4 school years. Secondly, unlike the previous research, we are interested in the long-term effect on students' motivation and attitude. And thirdly, we wanted to know that is it enough for the students to design experiments without carrying them out to achieve a better achievement. The support from the Hungarian Academy of Sciences enabled us to establish our research group. The content pedagogy research program includes 19 projects, and ours is one of them. You can see our group's name here. It consists 24 chemistry teachers, 5 university lecturers, and some pre-service chemistry teacher students. This research lasts for 4 school years, and in each school year we will write and pilot 6 student sheets and teacher guides. The last autumn the sample completed the pre-test, and at the end of each school year they will completed a post-test too. The pre and the post-test have the same structure: factual knowledge, experiment designing skills, and attitude towards chemistry will be measured by each test. And finally, of course, we will analyze the data statistically. Students come from 18 secondary schools, 31 groups or classes, and they are studying chemistry for 4 years. Now they are 883 at the 7th grade, so they are now 13 years old. We divided the sample randomly into 3 kinds of groups. The group 1 is the control group. The students in the group 1 follow step-by-step experiments. In group 2, the students do the same students' experiments, but they have theoretical experiment designing tasks too. This is a new element in this second research. And in group 3, students first partly design and then do the same students' experiments. So they filled in the pre-test, and in May and June they completed the first post-test, and they are now only 853. And here the results. It's a surprise because you can see that the intervention caused a negative change in each group's achievement, but it was significant only for the experimental groups. One might think that the post-test was simply harder than the pre-test. And we, oh, sorry, yeah, and about the experiment designing tasks. There were positive, significant changes in each group, and you can see that it was the smallest in the case of group 3. One feasible explanation is that the method is counterproductive in this age. Or doing experiments might have helped to learn how to design an investigation, and it is also possible that to learn chemistry, physics, and biology for a whole school year is combined with the natural development of thinking can have this positive effect too. And about the subgroups achievement, this is another surprise because there is a significant positive change only in the lowest and medium achievement subgroups. And the highest achievement groups has lower results. So doing experiments helped the weakest students most. This accords with the results of the previous research. Probably due to its motivation effect or better understanding what the experiments or investigation are about. And about the other tasks, so it was a surprise for me because there was a decrease in the scores in each group's achievement. And maybe the post-test questions were much harder than their equivalent tasks on the pre-test. And maybe doing experiments reduce the time for developing other knowledge. So we could not detect different trends among the boys and girls' achievement in any groups or subgroups. And answers to 5-point Likert scale questions suggest that students like chemistry less than subject called science. And at the time of the post-test, they thought that the role of scientific experiments is less important than they did at the time of pre-test. And another surprise that they prefer step-by-step experiments to experiments designed themselves. Thank you. So the conclusions shortly. Designing one or more steps of some experiments does not have long-term positive effect on students' experiment designing skills. In this age, we think, because it might work in the case of older students, maybe whose abstract way of thinking is more developed. But doing any type of experiments can develop the experimental designing skills. It's true that in the lowest and medium achievement students. Maybe the practical work reduced the time for the explain other things on the lesson. So the time was too short, we think. In Hungary, many of us believe that chemistry curriculum is overcrowded, and this demotivates students. So we have to consider carefully the options before making a decision of how to continue this research in the next 3 school years. Presently, we think that a more focused intervention and the closely related testing can be promising some more better than simply asking students to design experiments. The sample shown on the slide looks like a promising direction. And of course, we have many other results, and we will continue calculate statistically. But I think now time had passed, so thank you for your attention.
Mathematics as a school subject is the least popular one among students, according to several different surveys. For us, who adore math, these results are very strange and very, very sad. So, in my view, one of the most important problems is that in the school, those aspects of mathematics for which mathematics is worth to teach in does not appear. That's the most important problem. So, in many cases, only formulas, calculations, and solution methods are shown. And the school and the teachers only want to train the students to do these calculations and learn these formulas and so on. And the goals of mathematics education is highly different from those 100 years ago when the present curriculum was basically formed. And these crucial change should present in the school life, and which has not happened only in few places. So what should be the goals of mathematics education actually? So mainly, the students should learn to think independently within a given system, be courageous, not be afraid of challenges, and they should dare to go wrong. As we go wrong, we all do go wrong on our way to knowledge. In our opinion, learning all these should occur in a setting where students feel safe, they enjoy what they are doing, and feel happy. One possible solution to this problem is offered by the potion method. This method has been evolved while teaching talented students, mainly in so-called weekend math camps conducted by Lajos Pósa. However, we think that the basic principles of the method can be much more widely applied, and public education would also gain by the further spreading of the method. This assumption is to be thoroughly tested and researched, and one of the first steps of which was the Flying School program, to which I'm gonna to get back later. But before that, I'd like to describe the potion method. Pósa was a child prodigy, graduated as a mathematician, but soon after graduation, he turned towards teaching mathematics, and he has been devoting his life to talent care ever since. So, math education in Pósa method is not about giving lecture to kids and feeding new pieces of mathematical knowledge into their brains, or explaining solution methods or tricks to help them to perform better on math tests or competitions. But what are the most important principles? These principles are not so strictly connected to mathematics. They can probably be applied in other school subjects. And we believe that our approach would, in general, raise the educational outcome to higher standards and increase the motivation of children and make them happier. So let's consider now the most important principles which we take into account during lesson planning. For us, the most important thing is that students enjoy the lessons. Let them feel free, released, unworried, and be courageous. They shall love taking part in lessons. These goals are quite hard to achieve if the teacher always shows the methods and students only need to practice them, and moreover in a way that they are mainly just doing calculations and loads of boring tasks. This is not interesting for them. So in contrast, we let them show, we let them solve the problems on their own. We let them have enough time to discover the solution themselves and experience how joyful it is to figure out something. Students puzzle their brains on problems either individually or a group of 2 or 3. They can always choose from 3 or 4 problems at the same time. No one feels bored, and we aim to give them enough time, and for the slower students as well, to solve the problems. We believe it important that students have to pose follow-up questions. So after solving a problem, we usually often that, what would you ask now? And their questions are often incorporated into the material or curriculum. And let me mention just one more very important idea, which is completely missing from the public education. In Pósa method, we are always getting on with 2 or 3 different topics at the same time. It's not the case of teaching algebra in 40 lessons and then teaching geometry in 30 lessons and then teaching number theory in 25 lessons and so on. Why is it important? I am, for instance, less enthusiastic about geometry problem than a combinatorics one. If there is only one topic alive for a given time, given period, then what is happening for this perhaps longish period of time may not be too appealing to me, which may temporarily or even permanently depress me about and make me dislike the whole subject. My other perhaps more important argument is that parallel processing of several different topics results in more time for the students to assimilate, indeed understand the difficult concepts. Success in assimilating difficult and fundamental concepts depends not only the net time devoted to the given topic, but the gross time, the mere passing of time on letting the ideas mature, which is of high importance too. Teaching, for instance, 3 topics one after each other results in relatively short periods of time for the real acquisition of the concepts in the case of each topic. But in contrast, running these topics simultaneously, in simple terms, triples the time. And the given topic is alive for a longer period of time. So within the framework of the content pedagogy research program of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, we have launched an initiative named Flying School, and based on the novel of Eric Kästner. No, I'm just kidding. So we have organized and had mathematics lessons in 52 different schools around the country, applying the reformation principles. One aim was to learn whether the students are willing to work under these different circumstances, and if they do, how much they like it, and how effective our approach is. So slightly more than 1,000 grade 9 students took part in the program, and we have seen that they have been working hard and thinking enthusiastically about our problems. Based on this experience, we think that the students would be ready for learning this way. And based on the participants and teachers' feedback, we unequivocally think that they like the program and they feel good. The sessions of Flying School typically consisted of 2 parts. During the first part, students were required to answer relatively easy questions without reasoning, serving as warmers. But during the second part, 3 or 4 problems were posed at the same time, and students were working in pairs, and everyone was free to choose and think about the problem they found the most appealing. When they solved the problem, they presented their solutions to us, but not to the other students, and could continue thinking about the other open questions. I present 2 of the problems posed at the Flying School to illustrate their types and nature. The first problem was a 2-player game with the aim of figuring out the winning strategy. We call these games we call these problems strategy games in potion method. So the task is the following. So we have at most 15 chips on the table, and players take turn to removing 1, 2, or 3 chips, and whoever removes the last chip or chips wins. Okay, and the second problem is about a not too gifted contemporary painter who has financial problems. He threatened to be put in jail by 9 of his creditors, and instead of his complete loss of hope, he decides to give his masterpiece to his creditors, dividing the 5 meters high and 9 meters long, no, 9 meters wide, the big black rectangle, it's a contemporary painter, among the 9 savage creditors. And he wants to partition the whole picture into 9 rectangles with integer sides, creating the series called the little black rectangles. And he wishes the new pictures to be unique, so no 2 of them can be of the same side, of the same shape. Okay, so not the side, okay, so the same shape. The first question is, can he do this or not? And the follow-up question is, what if he had 10 creditors? So these problems are accessible to anyone. Any 4th grader would understand the question. And you don't need any specific content knowledge to solve these problems. Yeah, okay, so however, both problems were very challenging for our 9th grade students. So the strategy games are very important in the POSHA method. Why do we consider to be important? We have at least 2 reasons. The first one, that the strategy games are entertaining, and students most conveniently think in pairs, and they can practice the group work, and it's very, very important. But at the same time, it also develops skills that almost everyone needs in their lives. So that is taking the opponent's every potential move into account, and being prepared for these, and with potential moves in response. So playing strategy games leads children towards independent thinking. The will to win is an extremely strong motivation. So these games are especially important for the less talented students, as they are more willing to think about these kinds of problems, and this can help getting them interested in more abstract issues as well. So during the flying school program, in its 2nd session, a considerable proportion of the students were dealing with only this problem and with its follow-up problem, often for 1.5 hours. So I think in the case of a student who is not so talented in math, it's very rare that he or she is working on a single problem for 1.5 hours. Okay, so the second problem consisted of 2 parts. So the first part is much easier because the required partition exists, and the drawing and making trials make the students happy, especially as the task is solvable. But and from the teacher's point of view, it's not an important question. It's only to expose the second part. I have to be in order. Okay. So what do you want to do? Okay. So this problem, so the second part of this problem was the most difficult one during the flying school program. Only few students could properly solve it with giving a correct proof. But a lot of students were thinking about the problem, and they have understood that although they felt that it's impossible, it's not enough, and they need to prove it. And it's a very important moment, because the proof is a fundamental concept in mathematics, and which frequently appears as something mystical and inaccessible and unnecessary. But I think it is not. So as a closure to the flying school program, we organized a special one-day program for those of the 1,000 students who sent back solutions for some homework problems. And here students did mathematics with our method, with independent thinking in the focus for 2 times 2 hours at the beginning of the summer break. And we've made a short film also presenting the opinions of the students about the whole program. And in closing, let me show you a piece of this video. It's 2 minutes. It's okay? Okay. So.
Alig, hogy kitört a vakáció, és ti már is újra egy iskolában töltitek a napot. Mivel lehetett titeket rávenni erre?
Hát nagyon tetszett az első foglalkozás, amin részt vettünk.
Az és iskolátokban volt?
Igen. És annyira megtetszett nekünk, hogy úgy gondoltuk, hogy eljövünk a következőre is.
Ha valaki gondolkodik, hogy részt vegyen ebben a programban, akkor biztatnád arra, hogy jöjjön, vagy milyen típusú gyerekeket biztatnál arra, hogy részt vegyenek ebben a programban?
Aki nem földhöz ragadt, tehát nem csak tételekben gondolkodik, hanem nyitott arra is, hogy különböző nehézségű feladatokat különbözőféleképpen és különböző gondolkodással megcsináljon.
Van esetleg olyan konkrét feladat, amit itt
igen.
felidézzel, ami nagyon tetszik?
Volt egy feladat, amikor a korongokat kellett forgatni, meg levenni, és hogy az nyert, aki az utolsót vette le, vagy éppen ha játéktól függen, aki az utolsót vette le, az vesztett. És hogy ezt nem sikerült megcsinálnom a program alatt, csak 2 a 3 fordulóból, és a 3. fordulót pedig hazaértem, és szinte azonnal leültem, és kitaláltam, hogy hogyan lehet megcsinálni. Ez pedig nagy lelkesedés, elmondtam a testvéremnek és nagymamámnak, anyukámnak.
Mi az, amiben fejlődni tudtatok ezek alatt az alkalmak alatt?
Hogy ne adjuk fel, hogy addig gondolkodjunk, ameddig jutunk valamire. Mert egy normális tanórán lehet, hogy kicsöngetnek, és nincs időd megcsinálni a feladatot, és akkor vége. De itt meg nem ez van.
Pont most jöttünk a rejtvényes szobából, az összes feladat tetszett. Nagyon-nagyon kifejezetten érdekesek voltak ezek a rejtvények.
Mit gondoltok, hogy ez az egész program számotokra miért lehet hasznos?
Meg tudunk másképpen gondolkodni. Sokkal logikusabb. Nekem most ez jött le nagyon, hogy szerintem már sokkal logikusabban gondolkozok, mint ezelőtt 10 órával.
Thank you very much for your attention.
So, just a few words about our group. The title of my talk is Technical Informatics Methodology in Multidisciplinary Education. And this is the name of our group, just formed in support of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. So just a few words about our group and our previous results as well. Some of the group's members are faculty members and lecturers at universities, physicists, computer software engineers. And as Professor Patkós told and said that there are teachers from secondary schools, high schools as well. They are from the disciplines of physics and informatics, mainly some of them from chemistry as well. So we have some research and teaching experience since 1999 in the research of education and methodology. We have about a little bit less than 30 publications, and we have just accepted the paper in European Journal of Physics. So you can download this. It is an early access version. You can see that it's really multidisciplinary subject. So what is our aim? Application of modern methods and devices, and not only the application, also the development of these devices. I will show you some examples on that. And of course, to use it in education, not only in research, other part of research, we do, of course, other part of research as well. So we focus on the teaching of the correct usage of electronics, sensors, measurements, personal computers, credit card side computers. You can see many of them here in this nice event. Also smartphones you can use for experiments. And of course, behind that, there are algorithms and coding. That's a very important part also. We always provide open source hardware and software, so we share everything we do. Application in education from another point of view, there are various disciplines where you can use such devices and such methods, from physics, informatics, biology, chemistry, even I believe in mathematics and some other parts. I will give you some examples on that. And almost every levels, which means that, for example, teachers can use these just for demonstration to show how the things are working, or students can use these devices and methods during their experimentation, or at home for homework or just for fun, and of course for development and creativity development at university level, and even at high school level, I believe that. For undergraduate, graduate, and even postgraduate students can benefit of the use of that. So to make a bit more clear what I am thinking and what I mean, just start from this point. So how humans and how living beings use this phenomena. There are the real world signals coming to us. Right now, you see the picture here, you hear my voice. Of course, some kind of sensing happens in the human body and goes everything to the brain. The brain processes this information, so there is some conversion of these signals and goes to the brain. Brain makes the processing, and of course, it can turn back. So the brain can give some commands to make actions, for example, to speak, to move your body, to increase your temperature, whatever. So you can see many of them. Of course, devices work on the same principle. There are, again, real-world signals, pressure, temperature, light intensity, acceleration, many other things. And some kind of signal conversion is needed to have such signals which can be processed, because temperature can't be processed directly. Of course, some other signals can be processed. Of course, today, we can have this picture of that. So we have these external signals. What are the sensors here? Sensors convert these external signals to electrical signals, voltage, current, resistance, capacitance, inductance, that's all. And some kind of signal conditioning is needed to have voltage, always. Why? Because voltage can be processed in the most efficient way. So, with some signal conditioning, you have amplifiers, signal converters. You have voltage with a proper range, not too small, not too large, not too high frequency, not too low frequency. It's just the proper, which can be converted to numbers. This is done by the so-called analog to digital converter. So you have finally numbers. And in the digital domain, of course. These numbers can be processed by logical circuits and, of course, by processors. So the brain is the processors. Everybody has here such device in his pocket or in the bag, because the smartphone is the simple example of that. You have microphone, which is the sensor that converts the pressure changes to capacitance, that is digitized, that is amplified, converted to numbers, and the phone can even recognize or play back, and so on. There are many such things. So almost everything works, every device around us work on such a way. There are a large number of that. It's just a few examples. You can think about how it works. For example, you can have a blood pressure monitor at your home. Works on exactly on the same principles. So there are many solutions for education and for development of education. You can see around here many examples on that. There are commercial devices and solutions from companies. I just emphasized the last one, National Instruments. You can see here the stage of that. So they really produce very nice instruments and very good, even for education, good instruments. These are very nice, very correct, and very useful, but sometimes they can have some drawback because many things can remain hidden for the students. It can be some kind of black box because they don't know really what happens in the background. So they don't see such a signal change directly. They just see the final results, which can be okay. Anyway, you can have some feeling that it would be better to make it more open and more transparent. There are many homemade, self-made solutions. Again, many examples you can see here. You can use the sound card for experimenting, the Nintendo. Now it is not so popular because it was, now usually people use smartphone for experimenting because smartphones have a lot of sensors included, so therefore it can be used for experiments. And of course, Arduino, I will show you how we use that for. This is a small computer in some sense. These are cheap and transparent solutions, and they work fine, but sometimes they can be inaccurate.
Ladies and gentlemen,
maybe
we have a little delay, so
we have a little delay.
So start the highlight sessions in about 10 minutes.
Oh.
So in about 10 minutes, in the Great Hall, we will start the highlight sessions. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So anyway, you can have some inaccuracy because you don't know what is the accuracy of the sensor in your smartphone. You don't know what is the accuracy of the sound card. They can be used, but they are not instruments. They're not so precise. And another point, what I have to emphasize, that possibly improper and untechnical, unfunded usage can become a habit for the students. Of course, it is a drawback of that. Anyway, they are useful, but you have to think about that. Our aim is to combine the advantages of such methods. So what we focus on to make our solutions, so that's important for the student to make the solution as much as possible. And of course, find a way how to build the experiment, how to measure, how to convert the signals to numbers, how to interpret the numbers, how to display the numbers. And of course, after experimenting, you have to fix because you will have some problems, typically. And we also emphasize the engineering-like approach. So think before you do the things. Be smart, be efficient, and find an efficient and valuable way. That's very important. And of course, the student should learn how to be careful, how to be precise to a certain level, not more than required. That's important. And of course, this means some kind of reliability of the work. And of course, the final point is to develop the ingenuity of the students. That's very important, and we could hear about the previous talks as well. So learn and experience the principles and operation and the laws of nature. So that's one of our solutions was it was published in European Journal of Physics in 2011. It is called EDAC 513. It is a small data acquisition unit which can be connected to a USB port. I have here, so I can show you that. And many kind of sensors can be attached just to the same port without any glue electronics or logic. That was our aim. And so many sensors for the same connection, but it was not automatically recognized by the system. So the students had to know if they connect, for example, a resistor to the system, what kind of processing is needed. So it was transparent, and of course it was not automatic because that hides many things from the signal chain. That was our intent. And this means that the user must configure the input circuitry with the software, but he can do that. And many things can be measured directly, voltage, current, and resistance, and there are many other sensors can be connected directly to this instrument. The hardware and the software is open source. The software is also quite universal and quite simple. I will show you that, this software, which means that it continuously samples the raw signals, and the data scaling must be defined by the user. So it is not automatic at all. And in this way, physical quantities can be displayed. And of course, some kind of event recognition and timing can be done with this software. The software is also open source. So what we are currently working on in this new project, we try to implement the same system on the so-called Arduino. Maybe you know what is that. Just behind the door there is a stage 79 where you can see, and also I will show here. This is a very popular card, can be bought for a few dollars, so it is very cheap and very common. Students like it very much. It is practically a microcontroller board which contains a small computer, very small computer, no operating system, no other software, just the software what we write, nothing else, only a few lines even. And it has A to D converter, analog to digital converter inside, so we made a small board which allows to connect many kind of different sensors, and then now it is even more open than before because it has exactly the same port as before, more transparent because even the software can be changed very easily by the students. And of course, it is also fully open source as the original one. It's available, and we plan to write softwares for Android and iOS apps, not only applications for the PC. So we already have a prototype. It is here. If I have some more time, I will show you how it is working. And on the top part, you can see this so-called shield on the original board, and there are various sensors you can see here. And I put here an example measurement. It was just my heart yesterday. So on the upper curve, you can find how I will show you how it works. It has a LED which emits light, infrared light, and also has a phototransistor which can measure the infrared light. If I put my finger over that, it reflects the light, so the sensor measures the intensity of the reflected light. If the heart pushes blood into the finger, then the reflection coefficient will be different. Therefore, if you put your finger on that and just you see the raw signal, you will see how your heart pumps blood into your finger. On the other curve, there is a temperature sensor.
We would like to invite you to join us in the Great Hall. Thank you.
So that was the signal. So before I thank you very much for your attention, if I have 1 minute or two, I will show you this during working. So this is a simple device, a so-called Arduino, and you only need a USB port for that. It boots, and of course, we have now this board designed by us, but it can be reproduced by anybody, and also can be made on simple breadboards without soldering and without preparing them. So this is the software. I have to sit down because to avoid artifacts of the movement. So I put my finger over that, and then you can see the signal. It just measures the raw signal, but how can we check, for example, the heartbeat intervals? Just put some level crossing here, and if you have a, so it is very easy to make some timing, just to put a level crossing on the signal. And my heart rate is quite high, as you can see. It is a time distance. On the right side, you can see the time distance between the heartbeats. Of course, if I speak, then you can see the artifacts. But if I'm resting, you can see that. So on the other channel, there are two other channels which you can see here. One is temperature. So the temperature you can see, and the other is just a photoresistor which measures light. Exactly the same plug for the other sensors. So now, thank you very much for your kind attention.